Today we're going to learn about architecture, different types of architecture, and some architects. So, people have been creating buildings throughout history. Some of the earliest buildings were before we even had the written words, so we do not know what they were used for. For example, the first picture is of Stonehenge in England. Our best guess is that it's a ceremonial location, but these giant stones were stacked in a perfect circle with this heavy stones on top. This was very intentional. To the right is Machu Picchu, which is to believe to be an abandoned city on top of a mountain. Again, we don't have any written records, so it's hard to know. Egypt is one of the first places that we did have written record in the form of their Egyptian writing called hieroglyphics. You can see some writing on the side of that building there. Egypt often made their buildings out of sandstone because that's what they had available, but really detailed architecture. We also had classical architecture, often recognizable by the columns in front of the buildings. This happened in both Greece and Rome. You can see the columns in front of the Pantheon here in Rome. India has an amazing history of architecture as well. Often they have a tiered roof and very decorative. Japan is known for their pagodas and their use of red paint. You can see one of their archways there and a beautiful pagoda overlooking Mount Fuji there. Moving forward in history quite some time, the style changed from classical architecture in Europe to a Gothic style. Gothic is typically got these pointy towers on the top of it and very overly decorated. Eventually, people got tired of that overly decorative style, and we had the Renaissance, which is a word for rebirth, and they went back to the classical style. So we stayed in the Renaissance decorative style for a long, long time in our public architecture. Even in early America, we see a lot of classical style architecture in our earliest buildings. We're going to jump forward a whole bunch of time here to save some time, and we're going to modern architecture. Often you can recognize a piece of modern architecture by the straight lines. This got a little out of hand when we started going to the brutalist style. There's a lot of buildings around the United States that look like this. Not Miss Schaefer's favorite, but you can see all the straight lines being very serious in this architecture here. Eventually, people got a little too far in that style, and we went the opposite direction, including curved lines in our architecture, but in a modern way. Okay, now we're going to jump into studying some architects, some of the more well-known ones. So this here was the Getty Museum, and it's designed by Frank Gehry. He's a very famous architect. Another Frank who is well-known is Frank Lloyd Wright. He has that first modern style with lots of straight lines. He did a lot of homes and some public buildings as well, but he often also designed all the furniture inside. Julia Morgan is a well-known architect. One of her most famous works here is Hearst Castle. It's a whole castle complex, and it's known actually for its beautiful pools. Antoni Gaudí, his work is so fun. I think it's kind of modern Art Nouveau would be what it was called, meets Gothic. You can see we've got the curved lines of the postmodern art style. Um, but we got the towers in the Gothic style, and that's brought all together. A lot of his work is in Spain. And the last architect we're going to talk about today is Zaha Hadid. We've got the curved, beautiful lines, clean, big glass windows. Her work can be seen around the world. So that's just a quick overview of architecture today.